What's up, guys? Welcome back to episode 2 of the Tossing Dwarves podcast. My name is Ryan.
I'm Christian.
Michael.
And today, to start off, we wanted to talk about some of our top sports moments. I know we said it wasn't going to be a sports podcast. This is the only sports topic we have today. But just because 2015 ended, we figured we'd talk about our top 5 sports moments from 2015. Christian, you want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. So basically, the criteria we use is just it has to be a sport. It had to happen in 2015. I'm going to go from 5 being the worst to number 1 being the best, in my opinion. Number 5 for me was the Super Bowl interception that at the Seattle-New England game in Super Bowl, was it 49? And the reason I put that one real quickly, just you have one of the best running backs in the league at the time, especially just grinding it out. You're like 4 yards from the touchdown, and you
Throw a pass over the middle.
You throw a pass on first down. Like, if it was 3rd and goal, I could have seen it. Anyways, I've already gone into enough sports stuff. Number 4 was the Warriors winning the championship for the first time since, I think, 75. And right behind that for my number 3 was the Royals winning the World Series. They both had almost an equally long time, so really these two are kind of tied for me. It just depends on which more is significant to you. Number 2 for me was American Pharaoh winning the Triple Crown for the first time since 77. I don't remember exactly. I should have wrote down one here. It's been a while since we had a Triple Crown winner. And then
That's horse racing, by the way.
Yeah, horse racing.
Baseball.
Sorry, yeah. I don't know if there's a baseball
It's a
player
weird
named.
name.
Yeah, right.
But there is a Triple Crown in baseball.
Yeah, true that. Yep. And my number 1 was kind of, I guess, a little bit controversial, but Conor McGregor's 13-second knockout against Aldo, the fastest knockout in UFC history. The reason I put that as my number 1, Aldo is a guy who not only was considered the number 1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world, but also you've got Aldo, who literally hasn't lost in 10 years. I was 11 years old the last time Jose Aldo lost a fight. So that's why I put it in the fact that he got knocked down 13 seconds in a big title fight we've been waiting for. That was my number 1 for that reason. Michael, what you got?
We had a lot of the same, actually. Number 5 for me, the MSU Miracle.
Okay, so by miracle, the fumble
punt,
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. 4, I also had McGregor knocking out Aldo. I didn't see that coming. I thought this was going to be like a brawl.
Neither did Aldo.
Yeah. The only person who saw it coming was Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
3, American Pharaoh winning the Triple Crown. Number 2 was the Super Bowl interception, and the only reason it's on there is because I love the replays where you watch it happen, and if you watch Pete Carroll, he sees him intercept it, and Pete Carroll just goes, "Oh no," and drops his headset and just like looks down. And then number 1 was Holly Holm knocking out Ronda Rousey.
Okay.
That's pretty fair, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so for me, number 5, I have Kentucky losing to Wisconsin in the Final Four of last year's college basketball championship. And the reason is because they had an undefeated season. You know, they had a perfect season, and then in the Final Four, they get upset by Wisconsin. Number 4, I have Michigan State beating Michigan on the fumbled punt. I mean, it was whether you like Michigan or whether you like Michigan State, it was a huge moment. Like, It was a big moment. Like, you can't deny that. It was crazy. You were screaming at the TV for one reason or another. Number 3, I have a tie between Aldo between McGregor knocking out Aldo and then the Tyson Fury upsetting Vladimir Klitschko, because Vladimir Klitschko just kind of dominated heavyweight boxing for the last 11 years, and then he got upset by Tyson Fury. No one really saw it coming. Number 2, I have Sepp Blatter, the former president of FIFA, being accused of corruption and taking bribes and admitting to it and being removed from his position as president, which started a whole scandal with FIFA. I don't know if you guys have seen all this stuff.
I saw a little bit of it,
with all the executives and officials stepping
Yeah.
down because stuff's been coming out about them accepting bribes and corruption and just all this stuff going on. And number 1, I have Serena Williams losing to Roberta Vinci at the Grand Slam. She was on a 33-match winning streak at Grand Slam, and she was the number 1 ranked player in that tournament, and Roberta Vinci was number 43. Yeah. And she upset her and beat her in matches, which is kind of insane.
Yeah. You know what I find is funny? If you would have told me all the sport events like that were going to happen in 2015 without telling me like the winners and the losers, just the significance of them, what I would have said should have been on here was the Pacquiao Mayweather fight, which by no means should have made the list, but it's kind of ridiculous. We've been waiting so long.
I mean, you could have put. I considered putting it on my list just because of the records it broke,
Yeah.
I mean, it was still a significant event. It was just such a letdown.
Yeah, it really was.
I mean, it's not that it wasn't a good boxing match. It was exactly what you expected from Floyd Mayweather. But everyone had built it up in their head and dramatized it to be some just like
and it was 4
backyard
years too late.
brawl. And yeah, and it ended up being a normal boxing match. And that's what boxing is. And that's why a lot of people don't like boxing, is because it's not.
Yeah.
A lot of the times it is a kind of a boring sport if you're not super into it.
Yep. That's why you just watch UFC.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they're all pretty reasonable events, though. I mean,
Yeah, I mean-
it's hard to pick a top 5 when so many things happen.
Right. Yeah, I mean, because I had a list here. I had, Ohio State winning the national title. I had that as like an honorable mention, just because of the fact that it was the first ever college football playoff, and they're a Big Ten team and no one, the Big Ten's always been kind of discounted. Like, no one's ever really, not ever, but lately the Big Ten isn't really considered like national championship material. And Ohio State just came in and beat it. And then I had like the Packers beating the Lions with the crazy Hail Mary.
Yeah.
And the Lions beating the Packers
In
at Lambeau.
Yeah.
Warriors starting 24-0. Just a lot of crazy stuff did happen.
It is really hard to narrow it down.
I was gonna put the Lions beating the Packers at Lambeau, and then I was like, everyone.
To
in
me,
that
though,
division beat
well-
them at Lambeau.
To be honest with you, too, though.
When all of us wanted to put TCU beating Oregon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That happened January 2nd.
Yeah. But also,
Logistics.
the other thing about winning at Lambeau, and the reason it wouldn't have made my list, is because it's really significant to like a Detroit or a Green Bay fan.
Yeah,
and
but
in the grand scheme of things,
Yeah,
it's
it
really
doesn't
not.
really matter, especially
Yeah.
because Green Bay didn't have like a dominant season,
Right.
and then they were upset by an 0-15 Lions or something like that.
All right, I think that's good for sports, though.
Yeah, so that's it for sports. The next thing we want to talk about is Blizzard Entertainment, or Blizzard Activision.
Yep.
Recently acquired MLG, which is Major League Gaming. They bought them out for $46 million,
That's so
and they want to
weird.
use the brand to build the ESPN of esports.
See, I have a lot of problems with this, and it starts off with the fact that you've got, and this is going to kind of be a little bit of a rant, but you've got 2 major esports broadcasters right now. Riot Games, who holds only League of Legends. They hold no other game. And ESL, who hosts pretty much every other major esport you see, minus Hearthstone.
And a bunch of random little ones.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And with that, you've got that's probably about 95% of esport viewership goes to those 2 companies. And then you got 5% that falls into like Blizzard with their WoW tournaments and BlizzCon. Very small events at MLGs, which no one really watches. DreamHacks, things like that.
I wouldn't say the MLG events are small. They're just not very... Because, MLG does host huge League of Legends events.
But not anymore. They dropped them. They dropped League.
Did they?
Yeah, after the
Because
last
didn't
MLG.
they just have MLG...
Anaheim was
Yeah.
in 2014 was the last time that they're going to hosted.
Oh, yeah, because they've been doing IEM
Yeah.
now, haven't they? Yeah, so never mind. I'm
Yeah.
stupid.
No, you're
Yeah,
fine.
they've been doing it with IEM now.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're
MLG
right.
dropped. MLG dropped League because they felt like it was diluting MLG and because it was people were only watching it for.
Well, yeah, because they were having these huge MLG events, and the only part that was really getting streamed was
Yep.
the League of Legends tournament.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so what I was getting to with all that is Blizzard has a new game that's going to be coming out in 2016 called Overwatch. Overwatch looks really promising as an esport because it's a different type of first-person shooter you haven't seen before. Not only Blizzard's track record of making very successful games, World of Warcraft, StarCraft, Hearthstone, very much so games that have been successful at one point or another in an esports scene. It looks like it's going to be big, so it doesn't make sense for me to Blizzard buys MLG when they've got such a promising future. This also raises questions like, what happens to ESL and StarCraft? Because ESL
Right.
hosts the major StarCraft tournaments right now besides BlizzCon. ESL hosts used to host some Hearthstone things. I don't think they do anymore. So you've got to ask yourself, is StarCraft even going to be relevant anymore if they pull it from ESL?
Oh, and doesn't IEM still host StarCraft?
Well, ESL is IEM.
Oh,
ESL
they-
hosts IEM.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yep. ESL is the company that hosts Intel. No, I don't know how it works. One of the 2 hosts because it's 2 separate bodies, but they both are
Right.
doing the same thing. They
Okay.
are IEM
So
essentially.
Okay.
Yep. But that's the biggest issue with it, to be honest with you, for me, is that it doesn't make sense from a financial or a business standpoint to purchase such a large purchase of that, and there's nothing that's going to come of it, in my opinion, because you're diminishing the value of games that almost have no value. StarCraft's viewership is so low compared to what it used to be, and it's still getting broadcasted with ESL, IEM stuff like Counter-Strike, which has some of the biggest viewership numbers, League of Legends, which has big viewership at IEM, and StarCraft is still getting views because it's with IEM. If they pull it from that, forget about it. StarCraft's done.
Well,
and it's just Overwatch they're looking at, and Hearthstone.
And I'm sure, like, I'm really curious to see what Blizzard does with it, because they said they want to build the ESPN of esports, so I'm not really sure what that means.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what they want to do with that. Is this
Top
going
five
to be a
countdown,
network?
best place.
Yeah, is it going to be a network that just has, like a Sports Center type show?
Yeah, but, like,
that's constantly running or something like that? I don't know what they plan on doing with it, but something you really have to look at is, at the end of 2015, MLG was $1 million in debt.
yeah.
And Blizzard just bought them for $46 million. So, one sec. You guys go ahead.
Okay.
Well, our stream's ruined.
No,
Thanks, Ryan.
no.
Fired.
Well, and that's kind of the interesting thing here. You're working with the Blizzard MLG purchase as being the quote unquote ESPN.
Yeah.
Is you've already got League of Legends hosting something called Primetime League every Wednesday when their LCS is live. Do you think Riot's just going to be like, you know what, Blizzard, you want to be the ESPN of esports? That's cool. We won't do PTL anymore. We'll let you guys have it. No, they make a ton of money off that stream.
That's what I don't get. Like, if this was okay, if they got with like IEM and they got all the major esports and they're like, okay, we're gonna make a new thing and it's gonna be the ESPN of esports and we're all gonna do this and we're all gonna be partners in this and we're going to make this something big. That's one thing. But just saying, I'm going to buy Major League Gaming, and we're going to make it this thing. But yeah, we know, Riot, you've got League of Legends, and you're doing all these big things. We're going to try to do what we want to do. Like, if you're all doing it together, then I could see it being the ESPN of esports.
And that's the problem that, like, ESPN, the whole comparison is that when ESPN got started, there weren't, these companies that went with ESPN were like, oh yeah, sure, do this. Like, for example, NHL is owned by NBC Sports, so they barely have NHL highlights on ESPN because NBC Sports owns NHL. Right. That's the problem with League of Legends, especially, and the reason we bring up League is it is the most watched esport. I don't know if you guys know this.
It's the esport.
It's the sport. More people watched the World Championship Finals than the Super Bowl last year of League of Legends. Well, I'm sorry. More people watched the Championship of League of Legends than the Super Bowl. Yeah. That is ridiculous considering our culture. And that's why we bring up League of Legends, because League of Legends does something called PTL. Riot's not going to dump it. It's a 2-hour stream every Wednesday that gets them more revenue that they didn't have before, that people do tune into, that highlights are made out of. They're not going to dump it because Blizzard's like, oh, let us do the ESPN thing. It's going to be like the hockey thing, but reversed, where, and even, to be fair, they wouldn't even get Counter-Strike because Faceit owns Counter-Strike highlight stuff. Yeah. It's dumb to me. It doesn't make sense. They might as well have just kept their name as Blizzard and done highlights of Blizzard games because it's the only thing they're going to get in there.
I feel like if anyone holds the market like in their hand of like, if we want to do something, we can make it big, it's Riot. It's not Blizzard.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and another...
Not taking anything away from Blizzard.
But, and the really weird thing about it is, generally with a company like Blizzard that's, publicly traded, especially for a company whose stock in 2015 was doing so well. Like, I don't know if you guys really ever pay attention to the stock market, but Blizzard stocks in 2015 were doing amazing. Yeah. And then the way it works is generally stockholders are supposed to vote on things like a big acquisition.
Right.
Blizzard the stockholders didn't even know this was happening. Shareholders weren't aware that this was going to happen. They found out when we did. Yeah. And so they're not, a lot of them aren't happy about it. They're angry, they're confused. Yeah. Because here they are investing in this company. They really essentially own the company. Yeah. And the company just spent $46 million on a country that's $1 million in debt. And yeah, they did, when they bought out MLG, they did kind of clean house. They changed all not the ownership, but all the management, all the administration. They replaced them all with new people. But it still begs the question. It's like, how do you just do that without consulting the people who are really in charge? Yeah. And especially, like we've been hitting on, even if, MLG does still have games, but they're not relevant. Like, the games that MLG got big with, because, I don't know if you mentioned it, but MLG used to be, the golden standard in esports. Right. 5 years ago. In 2010, MLG was, if you were in MLG, if you got, landed a spot in MLG, it was like getting into the NFL. Yeah. It was huge.
That's what all Call of Duty players played to do,
right.
Was play
and they
MLG.
Got big off of 3 main games. Call of Duty, or not Call of Duty, Halo, StarCraft, and World of Warcraft. Yeah. Well, World of Warcraft they haven't hosted in a couple years because Blizzard
Call of Duty
themselves.
too.
Call of Duty, but after Halo.
Yeah. Okay.
Halo no one really cares about it anymore competitively. I mean,
No.
Halo's still like Halo 5. Is it the new one that just came out? I don't know.
It's not worth it.
I haven't had an Xbox in a while, so that came out, and I'm sure it sold well, but it's not being competitively played or anything.
Halo hasn't been competitive since Halo
And
2.
StarCraft hasn't either. Like, all the first-person shooter players have gone to either Call of Duty or Counter-Strike Go, and all the RTS players have gone over to MOBA games. So, and not even MOBAs. They've gone over to League of Legends and Dota. Those are the two games.
I was gonna say, yeah.
And I mean, Heroes of the Storm is basically where the wash-ups of those two games go to finish.
Well, and Heroes of the Storm did get really big for a while because, like we were talking about earlier, Heroes of the Storm. I mean, they were featured on ESPN. They had a tournament. It was called Heroes of the Dorm. It was like a college student Heroes of the Storm tournament, and it was on ESPN 2. I think it was ESPN 2. Yeah, hosted it live. And so that was a big deal for them, but I mean, it's fallen. Yeah. It's fallen to the side now.
Well,
when was the last
alternative to League? And
has there ever really been? Has there been really another major Heroes of the Storm tournament that we?
Yeah, they had one in Vegas. Their World Championships. Well,
no, I'm not saying there haven't been tournaments, but like tournaments that generated anywhere near as much publicity as that one did.
Well, I don't know how much publicity that one got because I wasn't paying attention to it at the time. But the one in Vegas, I mean, they peaked at about 100K viewers. I mean, which to be fair is for League, that's like Bjergsen, the star player streaming, gets barely under 100K.
Right.
I mean,
so yeah, and for some random small game company, if they were trying to make a new game, like if like when Rocket League first came out, if their first tournament had 100K viewers, that'd be awesome. You know, like wow, that's really cool, that's good for them. But Heroes of the Storm was made by Blizzard Entertainment. Right. One of the biggest names in video games, really. And they're owned by Activision, probably the biggest name
It's Blizzard.
in video games. Yeah. Other than maybe Nintendo. Like, Nintendo's probably the only name other than Activision.
And when it comes to, like, actual, like, console games and, like, competing with competitive play in games, you don't hear about Nintendo. Like, it's just, there's a few companies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know if you ever watch a Smash tournament, though, but those things are fun to
That's
watch.
what I want to get big. Smash.
Smash is so much fun to watch.
I will wreck anyone.
And MLG even had Call of Duty for a while. Like you said, they were that was another one of their flagship games.
That was the pinnacle at a time for Call of Duty
But
players.
Call of Duty just recently had a World Championship tournament, and it was hosted by ESL. It wasn't hosted by MLG, so... MLG really, at this point, has nothing going for it.
No.
The best thing that MLG has going for it right now is the fact that they got bought out by Blizzard. Yeah. So I don't understand where...
They're jumping for joy right now. They're like, I don't know. We just got bought for what? Did you say $46 million?
Yeah, $46 million.
It's one of those things that doesn't. I would really like to talk to one of the Blizzard guys that were responsible for the purchase to see where their state of mind is on it, because they're not stupid. Blizzard's a multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar company, you know. So there's got to be some real like obvious appeal to doing something. I'm just not seeing it at face value.
While we're on the topic of esports, have you guys seen all what's going on about like League of Legends players' salaries becoming public?
Yes.
What's your opinion on that?
I think they should be. I think they should be because, well, a lot of reasons. But when Calvin Johnson or whoever re-signs with a team, we know how much money he's making. Right. You know, and Dominic and Sue signed with the Dolphins for what, $120 million?
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Ridiculous numbers. Okay, we know this, and that puts value on the player. Okay, so therefore it puts a more competitive market out there for players, and it is more security for them, in my opinion. I just like it. I like it because it's a good fundamental thing to do. Because at the end of the day, if you want to be treated like a sport, you need to act like a sport.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm not opposed to the public salaries. I don't know that I personally care, but I think what would be better for the players themselves and for teams would be to have the salaries be public.
Yeah.
But the only problem that you run into there is because of the structure of the LCS. At the NFL, you have 32 teams. There are 32 teams in the NFL every year. I mean, yeah, you could make a new team, but you have to go through a very long process to get a new team put into the NFL. With the LCS, there's at least one new team every year. Because one team automatically loses their spot, and one team automatically gets a spot.
Yep.
So every year that's changing, so it becomes hard to put something in like that. Because what that does is it allows, it makes more of a, creates more of a monopoly with, with teams like Team Solomid and Counter Logic Gaming and Team Dignitas, and it lets them really get more of a stranglehold over the market.
Yeah.
and it makes it harder for a team like Renegades or Immortals or Complexity Gaming to come in and really make an impact.
I feel like
because if you have all the high value players, well, okay, yeah, we know this person's making this much, and this company's like, well, I can't afford to pay him that.
Yeah, well, that's what happened with Fnatic and Huni and Reignover.
Right.
I mean, for those you don't know, Huni and Reignover, former star players of a team called Fnatic in Europe. Immortals in North America, formerly Team Coast, offered them a ton more money, and Fnatic's like, I can't afford that,
Right.
and so they had to let him go, and I think that's ridiculous. Just because North America does get more viewership, there is more money here as far as that's concerned. So yeah, I think it protects the players. It does a lot more, but at the same time, it's gotta. If we're taking away all of the aspects of helping the players out, you want to be treated like you're a real sport.
Right.
Yeah.
Every real sport, you know how much players get paid.
Okay, and so if we're all on the same, I don't know if you said anything, but are we all? Do you agree that the salary should be public?
It's bittersweet for me because on one hand, yeah, I feel like knowing player salaries, even from a fan's point of view, it's better for me because it's like I'm more invested in the team, knowing what this team is like putting out to get these players. But then again, like you said, when you have like a team that's dealing out crazy amounts of money for like players and stuff, I don't want there to be kind of that like Yankee complex where you're like, oh well, this team's good because they have a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, and another thing you have to think about is League of Legends players' salaries used to be public because before like the LCS existed, the entire season was just done through tournaments.
Right.
And so you could look and see, okay, this tournament, this team won this much money. This tournament, they won this much money.
Right.
And so you could go through and you could figure out how much money this team made in this year. And, I mean, obviously you would have to do some math and you would have to do some guessing to figure out how many players. Because back then, teams weren't these big corporations like they are now.
Yeah.
TSM wasn't this big corporation.
No.
It was just 5
It
guys.
just got picked up by Red Bull too, man.
Did they really?
Yeah, Red Bull's
Who's
now
the highest? Who's the highest paid like League of Legends player
Uzi.
right now? How much is he getting paid?
We don't know an exact number. That's the thing.
It's millions of dollars.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say, and I think another thing I think it helps when it comes to the salaries are being public too. I think it kind of legitimizes it as a sport a little bit because if you think the Indianapolis Colts for just a second they were looking at Nick Saban, like we need a new head coach just before Chuck Pagano signed the contract extension, but gives Nick Saban $9 million to be their new coach. That's 2% of the money they get every year from the NFL. So, if you think about that, and then you think about the money that he's making as a League of Legends player, I think when people look at it, it'll start to make people think, maybe these guys really do have an impact. Maybe this is really competitive.
I agree with what you're saying.
I can respect this.
It comes down to even more than that. You've got players like Faker, who is probably worth the most amount of money in this game. Even though Faker was not the only reason by any means that SK Telecom won the World Championship. I mean, Bengi and Marn, on a side note, played outside of their minds the entire tournament and for the rest of the season. But anyways, getting off track. Back on, you got a guy like Faker, we don't know how much he makes. We know that he was offered more money than he makes in Korea to go play in China. And we're talking it was 7 figures. Like, it was a lot of money.
In U.S. dollars.
Yeah, in U.S. dollars. And yet
He didn't.
he didn't. And that, I mean, great, good for him.
Right.
But at the same time, it would help him if people knew, wow, Faker makes less than Bjergsen.
Right.
What? Like, that'd be ridiculous. And then SK Telecom would be forced to stop ripping off their players and actually make it better for them.
Do you think... I think it could go one of two ways when it comes to players now that the like salaries are out. Do you think it's going to either like boost the kind of the ego that these players have, or you think it's going to drop it a little bit?
These
I feel
players-
like players are going to be like,
Look,
oh, he's making more than me. I'm a much better player.
At the end of the
I want
day,
this much
I'm
money.
sorry, but at the end of the day, you're right. But the most volatile thing you can do in esports is be a player. Because you have the shortest career, it's the hardest to get into, and it's the hardest to stay into.
Yep.
And you need to, if that's what you want to be your career, and you have to retire after 4 years of doing it, you should be entitled, if you are that good, to make that money.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but that's how it is. And when teams have the money to pay them that, they should feel entitled to get that money, ego or not. at the end of the day, it's about the person that they are. Faker did not feel enough of an ego or enough of a need to go play for China, and because he stayed in Korea and won the world championship.
What I'm saying with it is I don't want it to become like an NBA thing where the money's so known and people know what other people are making to the point where it becomes more of the players taking hold of everything, and players are like, I'm going to go here, we're all going to go here, and it's going to end up
that already
happens. Look at Immortals.
Yeah,
Immortals
that
has
kind of happens.
Huni Rainover, Pobelter, Wild Turtle, and Adrian. 4 different teams are represented. Former teams of last season are represented in that team because of...
And there have been a lot of like allegations going around in the League of Legends community about trying to steal players, about poaching. That's what I was getting.
Yeah.
Poaching players from other teams while they're still under contract. That stuff's already going on. So public salaries isn't going to make that start happening because it's already happening.
I mean,
with private salaries.
Players wise, like when that infamous Heat team comes to be Bosch, Wade, LeBron. That happened because LeBron, Bosch, and Wade were like, we're going to do this.
Okay, but as of right now,
And
the players are in charge.
Okay.
I mean, think about it. You don't have, when you have a coach, your coach isn't on the stage with you during the game telling you what to do. The players have full control over everything that happens in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there isn't a coach on stage with them. They're on stage by themselves. I mean, there's a coach on there while they're
which is a recent thing.
Yeah, which is very recent.
Yeah.
But as soon as that happens, as soon as Champions League ends and they're about to get into the game, the coach has to leave the stage.
Yeah.
And so the players are in the game by themselves. So the players do need to have a sense of leadership and do need to be in charge.
Yeah.
And so that kind of thing is going to happen where players are kind of dictating where the team goes because they're the people who run the team.
Yeah.
Okay, so private salaries and public salaries is one thing. The other thing that's been going on with the League of Legends community is whether they should use handles, like summoner names, or their real names.
Oh, that one's been easy for me. We talked about this a while ago.
I didn't know this was becoming a big argument.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a thing going on in Snoop.
Oh, you mean like when they're announcing it? Like they should
like when they're on stage. When they're on stage, should Bjergsen be Bjergsen or should he be Soren Bjerg?
Oh.
Should Doublelift be Doublelift or should he be Peter Pang? Yeah,
that's a hard one because at the end of the day, you choose your stage name. So if you want to be called by something, it should just be whatever you're called, right? Like, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, like I don't really see it being that big of a deal. Like,
well, in
like Pasha Biceps for Counter-Strike, you know? I mean, it's
well, and it's not as I don't think it's as big of a deal as private or public salaries, but I do think it does play into esports becoming a legitimate entity in sports.
right.
If you have people that are called like a big fat GG, which is Korean slang for big fat penis,
Yeah.
then people aren't going to take it as seriously as
Right.
I mean, Meta World Peace.
But, like-
Chad Ochocinco.
Yeah, but those
but those are two people
Yeah.
that changed their
Yeah.
legally changed their
real,
names.
Real quick, I'm going to adjust the mic. It's probably going to make some noise. I don't want to keep the talking going. Okay. There we go. Hopefully that's a little bit better. Anyways, going back to what you were saying about it, at the end of the day, when we start talking about, and I know I just made the same argument for why player salaries should be public, at the same token, though, at some point, it's not going to be taken as a sport simply because it's not physical sport.
I wouldn't say
I don't
that
think it's
because
ever going to be
golf
accepted.
isn't very physical, but it's accepted as a sport.
But you're still doing a physical
But it's
activity,
literally,
swinging
it's
a
all
club.
physical. When
Yeah.
you think about it. You're just not hitting another person.
My point is, what I'm trying to say here is, it's never going to get to a point to where we have figured out all these things like stage names, salaries, etc., visas, that it's going to be, oh yeah, you know what, league should be included on the top 10 sports center thing, which it should be in my opinion. It's never going to get to a point where everyone's going to be like, oh yeah, you know, son, keep playing league. Make sure you practice league today because it's your sport. It's not going to, because it's a video game still.
What's your elo, son?
Yeah, that's what I mean. So my problem with it is, at some point, are you sacrificing too much in the name of being taken as seriously? I don't know. The stage names don't bother me.
Have that uniqueness. Like,
Yeah.
that's why I like it. I was like, yeah.
Well, and I just
You're
think
different from everything
I don't
else.
care. Honestly, I don't care if they call
him high, or
if it's Jason Tran or if it's Wild Turtle.
Yeah.
It really doesn't bug me. But I think personally, while I do think a lot of them, because Snoop was tweeting about it and he was talking about how he is really, he has kind of grown very fond of, and his handle does mean a lot to him. The name Snoop is him.
Right.
But I think it's easier to build a personal brand for yourself if you use your real name. Like, Incarnation changed his name, right? I don't know what his new summoner name is, but he changed it.
Jensen.
Yeah. I was like, oh, Cloud9 got a new mid laner.
Yeah.
And I watched the whole game, and I was like, oh, yeah, this new mid laner is pretty good. And then after the game, it showed their faces, like, oh, it was Incarnation.
Yeah.
So it kind of creates this thing where it's harder to build a personal brand for yourself, especially if you're going to change your name like that.
Yeah. It's big.
But yeah, like, it's one of those things that I think if it were to get to a point where League was on, ESPN Top 20, then I think they definitely would need to. But as of right now, I don't really know that I care.
Right.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. It's you do it or don't do it. It doesn't really matter to me.
Yeah.
So one of the things we want to talk about while we're still on video games is we each wanted to go through our top 3 video games of all time.
Oh man.
So want to just do the same order we did for
Sure, and it's
sports?
gonna take me a minute just to warn you. This took me a while to pick out because you're not dealing with like we're sports where we were saying top 3 favorite football teams. We're talking including first person shooters, including MOBAs, including all these different game types. On top of that, the age of them. What are you counting in the graphical content, the experience of playing it, who you play with? I basically took every single category and said, all right, we're gonna combine them. And that's what I did. So my top 3, starting from 3 being the worst, number 3 for me was World of Warcraft, Wrath of the Lich King, or if I'm being a little less specific, before Mists of Pandaria. I mainly because I spent so much time on it, but the people I played with in Wrath were really cool people to play with. I thought the gameplay was exciting. I thought the raiding was difficult. It was challenging, but it was fulfilling. I found it to be an incredibly fun game to play, and it was kind of like my, for lack of better ways of putting it, very cliche, escape, so to speak. I got to get away from everything and just play WoW at night before I went to bed, before I had to go, after I got school or back from school. So that's why that would be my number 3. My number 2, for a lot of the same reasons, is Call of Duty Modern Warfare 1 or Call of Duty 4. Again,
love that game.
played it with a lot of my friends. It was a lot of fun. Same thing in Escape, and I remember none of the other Call of Duties I would get bored of them after like 2 or 3 hours. Call of Duty 4, man, I could play it for days, and I would not be bored of it. Like, it was just fun. It was very simple. It was basic, but it was fun. My number 1 game on my list.
Yeah, you said you had a bunch of honorable mentions, right?
Yeah.
Do those before your number 1.
Okay. Honorable mention before my number 1.
Keep the number 1 a mystery.
This is including, by the way, in all my games I include like the lore of World of Warcraft, the campaign of Call of Duty, things like that. My honorable mentions: StarCraft 1. Love StarCraft 1. I never played it online. I played it only the campaign. Ever. I'm sorry to hear that. I played the campaign, and it was something I played with my dad. My dad didn't play many video games, but the 2 he did were Civilization and Civilization 2 and StarCraft 1. And I remember that just being a super exciting thing. League of Legends also made my honorable mention. Same reasons. It's an escape. It was a fun. The people you play with are fun to play with. It's a fun game. And my other one was Zelda the Wind Waker. Love Zelda the Wind Waker.
There you go.
Loved it.
Wind Waker's the one you went with.
I loved Wind Waker.
The GameCube. Oh.
And I love the GameCube.
That was the one game on GameCube I think I enjoyed. That and Pokemon Coliseum.
Oh, dude, I love the GameCube.
Sonic Riders.
I hated the GameCube. I hated the GameCube.
And my other, that was my other honorable mention because again, it was like a fun story. It was really interactive, and I loved the Zelda games, but that one stuck out to me. My number 1 game was Halo 2. It was.
I didn't expect that.
Well, and I'll tell you why. When I was younger, and we got our original Xbox, it was a Christmas present to all of us kids, and it was a big deal. It was the first game system we had. Computer was my stepdad's. We got on it at night if we were allowed to. We usually went outside and played actually. The one thing though I remember that was so much fun for my childhood is my older brother going, "Hey Christian, this Saturday we're waking up at like 7 in the morning. We're going to play Halo 2 Legendary Campaign all the way through." And then we're not stopping doing it until we beat it. And we would do that for Halo 1 as well, but Halo 2 was just such an interactive campaign. It was fun because you had these different, like, it was the first game I can remember, console game, really embracing dual-wield weapons, like akimbo as they called it, and it really flowed well with the game. It was graphically beautiful at the time for being a video game. I just really enjoyed it as a game. So that made my number 1.
Michael?
Number 3, and you guys are like, "Oh, you're stupid." Batman Arkham City.
You're stupid. I was going to say it either way.
Yeah. Well, fine, whatever. Batman Arkham City, just not because I'm not only like a huge Batman fan, a huge comic book fan, which kind of helped me in that, but because it finally showed that other than like Marvel Ultimate Alliance, which is a very like niche kind of game. Like,
Yeah.
You can make a good superhero game. You can make a superhero game that's gonna have like a huge market, and people are gonna want to play it. And it's gonna be awesome, and it's gonna be one of the best games people have played that year. And I think, yeah, the first one, Arkham Asylum, kind of did that, and it set up the building blocks for it. But Arkham City just tore it out.
See, I liked Asylum better.
Yeah, I kind of get that because Arkham Asylum was kind of like weird, and it kind of felt like
It was less of a superhero game, and it was more of like a detective mystery game.
Yeah. Number 2, Banjo-Kazooie, Nintendo 64.
Wow.
Gruntilda to go wah wah. No, oh man, I've logged so many hours playing Banjo-Kazooie. And then I have quite a few honorable mentions because it was hard to decide. Donkey Kong 64. Because I played that game for hours. I didn't get anywhere. GoldenEye. I don't know if I'm pretty sure it's the wrong Mario Party, but it's the Mario Party that's on the GameCube. Because that was my favorite.
Okay.
Resident Evil 4. And then my number 1 game all time, E.T. Atari. I'm just kidding. It's obviously not.
Oh, that's the worst game ever made.
No, Zelda Ocarina of Time. 64.
That's completely fair. I mean,
Yeah. So wait, we all have different favorite Zelda games then?
Wow.
Because mine's Link to the Past.
Oh.
The Super Nintendo
I almost
one.
said Twilight Princess, but Ryan hates Twilight Princess.
I hate Twilight Princess. The
Well,
game was so dumb.
Speaking of which, what do you got?
So
Twilight
for number
Princess.
3, I see what you did there. So my number 3 game of all time is Jack and Daxter. I don't know
Nice.
if either of you guys ever played that. It was on
Nice.
PlayStation 2. I used to play that game every day or every year on Christmas. I would play it straight through. Every tap on the table is loud. Oh,
Okay, yeah, let's
Yeah, so every year on Christmas
Sorry
I would
about
play
that,
that
guys.
game completely through. I just loved that game when I was little. Number 2, I have Diablo 1 and 2, not 3. I still really love Diablo 3, but I never got the same feeling playing Diablo 3 that I did when I played Diablo 2. Like, I don't know, and maybe it's just because of who I was and the age that I was. I remember like Diablo 2, I would like sit in like the town where you like can't kill anybody and be like, let's go down to the dungeon and slay some monsters, and I'd go down and I'd like kill them, and I'd like collect their ear because you could do that. And so my inventory was just like a bunch of ears and then like a really awesome sword. Yeah, I don't know. I was a weird kid. Okay.
Yeah, not much changed.
And then like my honorable mentions, I have like Halo the series, or not the series up until 3.
Okay.
Including
Cop out,
3.
Halo,
Including
all of
Yeah,
them.
including 3. So Halo 1, 2, and 3. Reach, ODST. No, I wasn't a fan of those.
No.
But the first 3 Halo games
And
were.
4 was actually decent.
I never played 4. I never gave it a chance. I'll admit, I was upset.
It was
after
not
Halo
as
Reach.
good as the other ones at all, but it was, you know.
Yeah. So Halo, GoldenEye is definitely one of my honorable mentions.
There you go.
One of my friends actually. Did you ever play the Aztec level, the ridiculously hard
No,
one? He had his VCR set up so he could record it while he was playing it, and he recorded him beating the Aztec level on the hardest difficulty and like brought it over and we watched it because that level was so ridiculously hard. I mean, for honorable mentions, I have like World of Warcraft and League of Legends, just because. But it wasn't even for the game as much, and the reason they didn't make my list is because it wasn't because of the game itself that I was considering them. It's because of how the people I met through the game, like changed, like affected my life and had such like an effect on me. But my number 1 favorite game of all time is Resident Evil 4. I love that game to death. I still play it whenever I can. Like, it came out on the Xbox Live Marketplace. I bought it on my 360.
I remember
beat
that
it
night.
day.
We're like, we're playing it that night. Let's go.
Yeah.
We're doing
like,
it.
me and a kid that I used to live near, when I first got that... Because I remember when the game first came out, my parents wouldn't let me get it. Because it was rated M and it was super bloody and super, like, gory. My parents wouldn't let me get it. And I got it, like, 3 years later. And I got it after I heard Resident Evil 5 was about coming out in, like, 6 months. I got Resident Evil 4. And
Dang.
I played it so much. Me and my friend we actually did speed runs of it, and I beat that game in 45 minutes. The world record's like 33,
Wow.
and I beat it in 45.
Damn.
And it's on average, like my first playthrough took like 6.5 hours.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I love that game.
That's weird. I didn't put League on my list, and it wasn't. And I love League. Like, I don't have a computer that will like run League, so I never get to play it, which is a shame because it's probably my favorite game. But the only reason I don't have it on there is because when I think of League, I don't even think of it as a game. And that sounds super hardcore. It's not a game, but
It's a sport.
that's really what it is. Like, it's the only game I've ever played where I want to get better and better and better and better. Granted, I haven't, but I want to get better and better and better.
Again, though, what the league thing for me at least was, it had a lot more to do with the people I played with than the game itself. One more video game thing before we completely abandon it, because this was an interesting topic I had. Not gonna spoil Halo 5, because I don't know how long it's been out. I just recently watched.
I don't even know what's happened.
Okay, so Halo 4. If you haven't finished Halo 4, I'm sorry, I'm gonna spoil it for you. Cortana dies.
Yeah, I knew that.
And well, she doesn't die. She goes off into slip space, right? But the assumption is she's dead because she's been decaying, and she sacrificed herself to kill the Didac. Okay, and you feel genuine emotion for Master Chief being without Cortana, like. It's like someone just lost the love of their life. It's a freaking AI. Right. You know, it's a computer system. So my topic here is, isn't it kind of ridiculous that we actually feel like that? Like that
we get so attached to characters.
Yeah, we get attached to a character that was literally an AI. It was a computer program.
See, I don't think that's weird, because no one thinks it's weird when someone cries at, like, Marley and Me, but if, like, you get emotional at a video game, I was a part of it. I played through it.
Yeah, that's true.
When it got super tough and I didn't think I was going to beat that level, I beat it. I'm a part of this now.
Have you ever heard of a game called Life is Strange?
Yeah.
Because that's one of those games that people are super into, and, like, I don't want to spoil anything, but there is a character that, if you choose the wrong option, she jumps off a building and kills herself. And people get to that part, and people are freaking out when they get to that, because they become emotionally invested, and they become attached to these characters.
Yeah.
That something happens to them, they're like, no!
Yeah, and by the way, if you're going to buy Halo 5, don't. I'm not going to spoil anything, but it sucked. And the story's going to complete terribly, and I really wish they would have ended it at 4. Give me the sad ending, fine, but end it. Like, 5 is...
Rip the Band-Aid, man.
Okay,
5 is miserable.
I never played 4, and I haven't played 5.
4 was decent.
I heard, like, Master Chief is, like, a bad guy or something.
He's the original OG bad guy is what I heard.
Wait, for Halo 5?
4. I heard that in 4 you find out Master Chief was, like,
The
this
whole
evil
reason.
mastermind the whole time.
Wait, did I not pay enough attention to Halo 4? Oh, I see what you're saying. It's hard.
We're past the spoiler rule.
Yeah, but it's hard to, like, explain. Like,
Yeah, because I don't know, because I haven't played it.
I've never played a Halo game.
I heard that it's like a M. Night Shyamalan level twist.
I played
and
Halo
it's just
ODST because it was free on the Xbox Marketplace one time.
Your cat's trying to kill the stream, Dean.
Everybody.
Sorry, we have a webcam balanced on a laundry basket for our stand, so we
It's
can
a
get
pretty low budget
Yeah.
thing going on here.
And
high-tech
the
stuff.
cat's like leaning against the basket for a second. There, I'm like, oh boy. Anyways, but what I was getting to is they ruined the story, but they really, really did. But anyways, apart from that, I just thought it was really interesting. A side note that I realized when I was watching the playthrough of Halo 5 was because I don't have an Xbox One and I didn't want. I'm so glad I didn't buy it. I realized, like, man, I'm really, like, torn about this because I really don't want to spoil Halo 5 because isn't it still relatively new? Like,
I think it came out a couple months ago. I think you're good.
Okay, if you want, I'll give you your fair warning. If you don't want Halo 5 spoiled, stop watching right now. Okay, we're going. Cortana is basically the bad guy now.
Okay.
It's so stupid. It really is. And I feel, like, emotionally conflicted because you want the Chief and all them to stop Cortana, but at the same time...
It's Cortana.
It's Cortana. You almost cried because she died, Dean. You almost cried because she almost died in Halo 4.
I'll get rid of the cat.
Yeah, we're getting a little... The webcam's going to come crashing here in a minute. Anyways, Halo... But it became and that's why, like, you're watching the playthrough, you could see it coming basically by the second mission, like, that you're watching and stuff. Like, oh man, like, this isn't good.
Now,
you know?
do you not like that because of the way you think it makes the story look bad, or do you not like it because of the character?
Oh, both. But I think it makes the story look terrible, for starters. I also think it's stupid to use Cortana for that. Like, if you were using it as, like, Cortana was being enslaved by the what are they called? The the alien species. That
Don't look at me. I've never played it.
I can't think.
I don't know what they're called.
I can't think what they're called. Oh my gosh, the guys that. Anyways, if she was being held hostage by them, then it would be different. But the problem, and forced to do what she's doing. The problem is it's using a now Halo is less about the Covenant, less about being about Halo. Like it shouldn't even be called Halo anymore because there's no damn Halo in it. But like at the same time, you run into this problem to where they've moved away. And now it's like, oh, AI, and is AI moral? You know what I mean? Like now you're like, wait, why am I questioning this? I'm
So
playing
now it's
Halo.
like the video game version of iRobot.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just more about the AI, and like the AI are leaving the humans to go join Cortana and on her new crusade of like creating a peaceful world.
So was Cortana like the supposed to be like the bad guy the whole time? And
No.
Like okay.
So like basically what happened with Cortana, real quick synopsis because this is going to go on for too long. Cortana was going through decay in Halo 4, and they were trying to get her back to Dr. Halsey because at the end of Halo 3, Master Chief is left in slip space. They don't know where he is.
Right.
So she's in decay now because it's been so long, and she doesn't have that supposed to not have that long of a lifespan, and they're trying to get her back to Halsey, the doctor that made Cortana, and he doesn't. He fails. She sacrifices herself to kill the Didac, the main bad guy in Halo 4. And she goes off when the ship explodes, it's sent into slip space. So she's essentially gone. And when you get to Halo 5, Cortana's sending transmissions from this planet that when she landed on this planet from slip space, it revived her. It revives all AI. It fixes their decay. It's supposed to be like a planet of life. And now what her new goal is now to bring peace to the entire universe because she feels like that's her and all AI's purpose is to bring peace to the universe. And the cool thing is, though, at the end of Halo 5, the one cool thing I thought was they do show a Halo floating in space. So you know that Halo's going to be introduced again. Okay. But you still kind of feel like you haven't seen a Halo since Halo 3. I don't think there was a Halo in Halo 4, was there? No, there wasn't. Probably so the only Halo we had was in Halo 3, the last one. So, you know, it's hard. It's hard to... But, again, it should be pretty cool to see how that works out.
I don't know. It's probably because I haven't played it as much as you have, and I'm not as into the characters and stuff. But when I hear that, I kind of like it a little bit, but only because...
Okay, but yeah, if you would have played the original Halos and...
It's probably just because that kind of villain kind of like appeals to me. Someone that was very good.
Here's
and
the thing.
Through a series of events, she thinks she's doing the right thing, but she's not.
The first 3 Halos, Cortana was a side character that helped you open doors, talk to you, and got you out of bad spots. Okay.
Yeah, it's not like she was this, and it was just people liked Cortana because it was it was this little like woman that talked to you, and you thought her and Master Chief
like
were
Navi,
like
but she's not
into
annoying.
each other, even though she was a robot. But yeah, she's essentially like your GPS. Yeah. She's essentially Siri. Yeah. Cortana is basically Siri.
I mean, Cortana's Cortana. You have an Android phone. You got Cortana.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's basically what Cortana was in the first couple Halo games. And then all of a sudden, she's like this mastermind. Apparently,
yeah. Like, that's what I'm saying. That's my problem with it. But we'll get off of that for now. I don't know if you had anything else, or if you want me to bring up the Oregon incident yet.
We can talk about that. Okay. Or you want to talk about the Affluenza team first?
Go and go with the Affluenza team. We'll build up some
I know
suspense.
more about that than I do about Oregon.
So, if any of you guys know what the Affluenza team is, it's this guy named Ethan Couch. And I don't remember where he's from. I can't remember what state he's from.
I don't know.
It's a state. He's from the U.S. He's from one of the states. Basically, what happened is he's underage. He stole a bunch of liquor, then got super drunk and started driving like crazy, and ended up hitting a car that was parked on the side of the road. And there were people working on it, and he killed 4 people, including like a pastor, his wife, the woman who owned the car, and her kid, I believe.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, he killed 4 people.
And then Texas.
It was in Texas? Okay.
Yeah.
And then the judge gave him 10 years of probation. Probation for killing 4 people while drunk driving.
One of them was his friend, wasn't it? Because I heard there was somebody in the car.
I don't think the person in the car with him died. I think it was only people that he
The way they
died.
worded it when I read it, it was like 4 people were dead and injured, including
maybe.
someone in his car,
I'm not completely sure on who died.
Right.
But yeah. Either way, he killed people.
Yeah. Now.
Yeah.
And so he was given 10 years of probation because the judge said that he didn't understand the consequences of his actions because he was never raised. He wasn't raised in a home with actions because he was raised in a very wealthy home, which that's what affluenza is. Affluenza is like because you were raised with no consequences. You had a very rich family. You don't understand like when you do bad things happen. And so basically, he gets 10 years of probation, And then a couple weeks ago, a video comes out of him at a party playing beer pong and drinking and violating his probation. And so him and his mom go on the run. They disappear. No one knows where they're at. And then they find him in Mexico. So just to add to like how arrogant this kid is, they didn't flee to a country with no extradition or anything. They went to a vacation resort in Mexico. And the reason he got caught is because apparently he doesn't know how cell phones work. And he ordered Domino's pizza from his cell phone. And they tracked his cell phone usage to where he was staying.
He's not the smartest guy.
And so while he was in this area in Mexico, at one point he went to a strip club and ran up a tab so high that he didn't have enough money on him. So he had to call his mom. His mom came to the strip club and paid his strip club tab.
Oh my gosh.
When they first got there, they got put into a room. And apparently they had an illegal gun. They had a gun that they weren't supposed to have legally. And they got a call from the hotel. They're like, hi. We need you to switch rooms. We have like a handicapped person that needs this first floor room. We'll move you up to the third floor. We'll give you like a discount or whatever. They're like, okay, yeah. They did it. They left the gun. Forgot the gun. So the people that get the room call the front desk. They're like, hey, there's a gun in this room. I don't know what it is. And so then they call Ethan Couch and his mom, and they tell him, you left a firearm in your hotel room. Is it yours? They're like, oh yeah, we'll come get it. And he comes down and gets it, like he just like forgot his wallet or something. Just grabs it and nonchalantly. Like, it's so ridiculous.
The amount of arrogance that they have.
He's the scum of the earth when you think about it, because he knows. He knows. I know what I did.
Right.
I know I shouldn't have done that.
Here's the thing. Backstory. I'm a psych major. That's what I'm going back to college for, okay? This whole, like, affluenza thing is complete bullshit to me. I'm sorry.
Oh, I can't
But,
stand
like,
it.
it's a dumb concept. You know what right and wrong is.
Right.
At the end of the day, whether you were brought up rich, you were brought up poor, in the middle, I don't care if you were brought up thinking that right was killing somebody and wrong was not killing them. There's still the difference between right and wrong there, and you know it, okay? Like...
Yeah, even if your concept of right and wrong is
wrong,
you have one.
Yeah. So it's complete and utter ludicrous that he got only 10 years of probation for killing people when you've... I don't know.
When people get DUIs and they only injure
Yeah.
people, and not to say that those people shouldn't be punished, but if you get a DUI and you injure someone, you're going to jail.
Well, if you get a DUI more than once, you're going to jail.
Right.
Like, that's the thing. If you get an OWI, which is the least severe thing,
Right.
twice you're going to jail.
Right.
Like, I don't know. It's kind of just... there's so many different things that come into mind with it, but the one thing is that in the entire... This all should have been avoided by the fact that this kid should have been put in prison.
Right.
Like... You know better.
You killed four
You
people.
killed 4 people.
I'm not sure how old he was at the time. I think he was 17 when it happened. So he wasn't 18, so they would have had to try him as an adult. But I think you have grounds to try him as an adult.
And I
there.
think, especially now, when you look at it, when you first hear about it, and granted, you don't know the aspects of his life. You don't know how he's raised. You just know he's from a wealthy family, and you can kind of... in your own mind think, okay, I think I know how they live, you know what I mean? And when you first hear it, you're like, yeah, that's really stupid, but I could kind of see how someone would think that. But then when you break probation, and then go to Mexico, and then run up a stripper tab, we all know you know what you did.
Yeah.
We all know that you're an idiot, and we know that you're not going to get any better. You're just a cocky D-bag that doesn't care what he does. And you killed 4 people. You ended 4 lives.
Yep.
1 life. That's enough.
Yeah.
Right.
The whole thing's just stupid to me, and But so now that he was found in Mexico, is he going to prison? Then is that what?
Him and his mom have been arrested. I believe his mom has already been extradited. She's currently out on $1 million bail. Because she's only being charged with aiding and abetting.
A fugitive, right?
Yeah.
Fugitive. Yeah. I can't think of what it's actually called, but yeah, basically she's only being charged for helping him evade arrest.
Yeah.
But he is being charged with violating his probation, and I'm not sure what all he's being charged with because they can't try him again for those 4
double
murders
jeopardy.
or for those 4 kills, but they can try him for violating his probation and then fleeing the country.
What if they... Hold on, because I don't know how the legal system works exactly, but can you try him for it again now that he's an adult? Because he wasn't tried as an adult for the first place?
I don't think
believe
so.
Oh, no, because then you'd have to have... Yeah, never mind. You're right. It's still double jeopardy.
Yeah, because you're still being charged for the same crime.
Which, yeah, I get why the double jeopardy rule exists. But when you think about it a little bit, you're
kinda
like,
messed up.
exception, please?
Yeah. Like OJ?
Asterisk on this one, please?
Yeah, oh my
If the glove doesn't fit, you must
Yeah.
quit, Ryan.
Yeah. I mean,
But yeah, I guess.
yeah. Any other thoughts on that before we?
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean,
So, for those of you that
Oregon.
don't know, in Oregon right now, there's a bunch of
Oh God.
there's dozens of white guys, and I'm going to emphasize white for a reason here. There's a dozen of white guys, or not a dozen. There's dozens that have armed themselves with assault rifles. Some of them have handguns, and they occupied a federally owned wildlife preserve in Oregon. They're upset because, and I don't know the full story. I know you know a lot more about the actual backstory of it, but essentially what I'm getting is there's two guys that were poaching. They got put in jail for not a state minimum, and they also burned federal land. Right? Go ahead and explain
yeah,
why.
So
and then
essentially, what
I'll go
happened
back
is
to what I'm
there's two
saying.
farmers. One of them's 73, and the other one's his son, who is 40 something. And basically, they got in trouble for setting a fire on their property that burned off, and it burned over, and it burned 180 acres of publicly owned land. And the reason that they suspect they set the fire was to cover up poaching, because there's not really any other. They had an excuse that they gave, but it didn't really hold up. I don't remember what they said.
They were doing it for to harvest, they were clearing it out or something like that. That's what I
Yeah,
heard.
but the way it was set and the area it was set in, and that it didn't
Doesn't
match
make
up with
sense.
that. And then they set two fires. And the second fire, they got in trouble for, but it's kind of weird. I'm not sure how I feel about this one, because there was a wildfire that was heading towards their land, so they set a backfire, which basically you set a fire that fights the wildfire for you, and it pushes it away from you.
Yeah.
They set a backfire, and it protected their land. Their home didn't burn down, their farms didn't burn down, but it wasn't on their property that they set the backfire,
Right.
from what I understand. But at the same time, I kind of feel you there.
Yeah, right.
Why you do that? But the first one, if it really was, no matter what you set it for, even if it was just burning away
So-
land, it burned 180
So
acres of land.
they
that
went to
wasn't-
prison, but it wasn't for the state minimum for arson, right?
Yes, and the way there's a federal or a mandatory minimum of 5 years for arson, and the part that's really messing people up is it's called the Anti-Terrorism Act of 1998 or something like that. That's under. So people are like, why are they being tried as terrorists? Blah blah blah. And they're not being tried as terrorists. Just the law that contains the mandatory minimum for arson has terrorism in the title,
Yeah.
and it was an Anti-Terrorism Act.
Um,
But yeah, that's
so, anyways,
wow.
going back to what I was going to say.
Yeah, and so they went to jail, but the judge that ruled on it, the state judge, said that 5 years was too harsh, so they sent them to jail for less than that. And then a federal prosecutor appealed that, took it to federal court, and it was overturned.
Yeah. So what I was getting to with this is, they overtook this wildlife preserve. It's federally owned. It's been almost a week now, and the only people that have responded to the situation are the local sheriff's office.
Right.
Okay. Let that sink in for a minute, because let's exclude that they're white guys. And I'm sorry, I'm going to sound real liberal here for a minute, but if the shoe fits, okay? If you took out that they were white guys and put Muslims, and they were protesting the fact that Donald Trump was going to kick them out of the country or not allow them to come into the country, and they had guns, and they said, oh, and by the way, sorry, backtracking, the white guy said they will use the guns with violence if anybody tries to remove them from, or tries to punish them or remove
So
them.
they don't intend on remaining peaceful.
Yeah. If that's what I mean. They don't.
if they're challenged.
Yep, exactly. Going back now, if Muslims did the same thing, and
They don't even have to be Muslims. If they were Arab
yeah,
people.
Arab,
If they were
let's say
Arabs.
Arabic,
Yeah.
yeah,
If they
Arabic
just
people.
if they looked Arabic.
yeah, and they said we're not leaving until Donald Trump is disqualified from the presidential race. Okay, let's say that was it. And this is just an example. Nothing like this has happened. We would, before they even would probably have set in there, have a SEAL team on the way there. We would have National Guard there. We would have the FBI. We'd have every local law enforcement agency involved.
Yeah,
It'd
it would be a
state of
military-
emergency. It would be a act of terrorism.
Yeah.
Because it is terrorism. I don't care if they're brown, if they're black. I don't care if they're white. If you have guns and you are holding up a building, not only that, there are schools canceled around the area because of the event. You are being terroristic. It is terrorism. You are using fear to get your way, and that is terrorism.
Yeah, and that's what terrorism is. Terrorism, the definition of terrorism is the use of fear or violence
Yeah.
in order to push a political agenda.
yeah.
And that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're fighting a political issue
Yeah.
with fear and the threat of violence.
Remember
That's
the
what
table.
terrorism is. But yeah, I'm sitting at the table. I talk with my hands. But that's what
That's
terrorism
what
is.
I'm getting to. And you know what the really messed up part about this whole thing is? The people, the Hammonds, the family that's being charged, do not support them doing this. They turn themselves in. Their attorney's like, the Hammonds do not condone what they are doing. They wish they wouldn't. They don't speak for the Hammonds, etc. They are literally pushing their own agenda and using this example to do so.
And the thing I don't understand is, you see all the headlines, armed militia takes over a federal building, and essentially it's more of a rest stop.
Yeah.
Like, it's...
Yeah.
I mean, it's about the size of my house, and I don't live in a big house.
Right.
Like, I don't understand what they intend on doing by taking over. Normally, a house is like, their primary activity there is bird watching.
Yeah.
What are you doing by taking this over?
Yeah.
What
are you accomplishing?
What are you accomplishing other than saying, hey, we can take buildings over?
That says fear to me.
The argument that a lot of people are saying is, well, it shouldn't be considered terrorism because they haven't shot the guns or used them. But that's what we got to. Hold on. Let me use my example here. Okay, if you walk into a bank and you go up to the teller, this is actually a real story of a guy that has done this. He actually did a Reddit AMA. He went to jail, did his time. Can't remember his name. I really wish I could, but look him up. You'll find him. What he would do is he would walk into a bank. Now, he did have a gun in his pocket. That is true, but he would never show them the gun. He would walk up to them, hand them a note that says, "I have a gun in my pocket. This is not a joke. I want 150s right here, right now. Do not make a scene, and then I'm leaving." And they would and that teller would empty out their thing, give it to him. They would obviously trigger a silent alarm, but he would be out of there long gone before. Okay, so
he didn't do anything wrong.
He didn't use a gun. He didn't shoot them.
He didn't do anything wrong.
That is still considered armed robbery.
He didn't even show him the gun.
He still gets charged with armed robbery. Okay, therefore, it is still the essence of him having a firearm. Even if he didn't have the gun in his pocket, by the way, he would get charged with armed robbery. Even the threat of it. Therefore, the threat of them threatening to act violently for their political cause should in itself, if nothing else does that should, which there's plenty that should, entitle it to be called terrorism. That's the problem I have. But it's because it's white guys. It's because that they're defending their right to be Americans, which in itself is just...
That's ludicrous.
It's so stupid. It's because that isn't terrorism.
It's because we live in a society now that... You were talking about it earlier, the terrorism act of whatever it was. Well, they shouldn't be tried as terrorists. Okay. The reason you're saying that isn't because they didn't do anything wrong.
Well, no, they didn't. They shouldn't have been charged as terrorists, and they weren't tried as terrorists because all they did was set fire to
I think it's because we live in a country now that a lot of people, they think Muslim or brown people and terrorism are
hand in hand,
synonymous with each other.
Yeah.
They're not. Terrorism is terrorism. A guy going into a Colorado movie theater and killing 20 people is terrorism.
Yeah. Right.
But you won't call it terrorism because you don't have a problem with the white guy.
Here's my last thing I'm gonna really say about it, besides obviously counterpoints. Let's say it's not terrorism. Let's use this argument. You know what? You guys are right. It's not terrorism, which you're not. But let's say you are. Okay.
Don't point at me. I'm saying it is terrorism.
I'm
saying it is terrorism.
A couple of months ago, or a year ago, the Mall of America was held in a protest by Black Lives Matter movement. They are unarmed protesters. I don't know if you guys seen this picture. You should go look it up. The escalators are filled with FBI riot guys. The policemen are dressed like they're in military combat zones, and National Guard was called to the scene for a peaceful, unarmed protest. That's my point. Let's say this is a quote-unquote protest. We shouldn't just have a local police station which is a small town, so it's probably not that many guys handling the situation. And that's where the problem is. And, like I said in the beginning, and like I'll end this with at least my points is, if this was Arabic human beings or black guys doing this, or anybody else besides white people, we would have every branch of military on duty for it. It'd be over. It'd be old news. We'd be done talking about it.
Right.
They would have been executed. They would have been taken care of.
Yeah.
So at some point, by the way, hashtag Al-Qaeda.
Well, and the thing about it that is funny to me is, or not funny, it's annoying, but you keep seeing the side-by-side comparison of this with the Black Lives Matter in Ferguson and Baltimore.
Yeah.
And if you look at it, you say, okay, yeah, in Ferguson and Baltimore it was violent, and they were burning buildings, and they were doing a lot more harm than these guys are doing right now.
Yeah.
But if you look at how those riots started, they started as peaceful protests.
Yeah.
They started as protests, and then police and the military responded violently.
Yeah,
and
and it caused them to respond violently.
And am I justifying what happened in
No.
Ferguson? No, I'm not saying that. No, I think what they did was wrong. And even Mike Brown's family said they wish they would stop rioting. And I agree. I think the riots went way too far. They went on too long, and things happened that shouldn't have happened. But how can you condemn that
and not
condone this?
Yeah,
I don't understand.
And if you condone this, by the way, you should be ashamed of yourself. I'm sorry. There is no reason, even if you believe it's not terrorism, even if you believe it is protesting, you should be condoning this. Because at the end of the day, if nothing else with how wrong it is, they are closing local schools because of it, because they are afraid of the area and how the safety of the area. That is ridiculous.
I don't get how anyone can be for it, because when
there
you
are
really
people
look at it, it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
They don't agree with you, this family. They don't think what you're doing
is
right.
It's because it's the Bundy family. I don't know if you know who they are, but this protest is being led by Ammon Bundy.
Yeah.
His dad, Cliven, I don't know. It's a
something like that,
stupid name. They're a stupid family. He was involved in a huge standoff with police that lasted days.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how many people died.
Yeah.
I don't know how many, but people died.
Yeah. It is just, it's hypocrisy. It's wrong. It's there's so many different things that come to mind with it. I don't know. And you know what's funny is, even the media refuses to call it terrorism, which in itself is abominable to me.
Honestly, and it's funny because it's another example of the fact that I don't know if you guys watch The Daily Show. I love The Daily Show.
Oh yeah.
I was a huge fan of Jon Stewart. I love Trevor Noah.
Yeah.
Why is it that Comedy Central and HBO are the only two networks that have serious news and actually tell it the way it should be told? I take Comedy Central more serious than I take Fox News or CNN.
Yeah.
That's
Megan
sad.
Kelly.
Oh gosh.
That's sad. That is so sad.
Here's the problem too with the media, and actually it's something I wanted to talk about, is how it has such a social effect on things like elections. You know what I mean? For example, go to major online polls. You know what I mean? Who won the debate? Bernie Sanders. CNN, Hillary, the big winner of the debate.
Right.
Fox News, Hillary's still Satan, but she won the debate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hillary's still Satan.
Yeah. In the media sells their candidates as much as the candidates sell themselves. And that's another problem, I think. We've gone from being the free press to it being oh wow, the government's trying to limit what the press says, to the other side of it now, where these candidates are probably, I hate to say it, paying somebody off to go, hey, make sure you talk about me a little bit more, you talk about that Bernie guy. You know what I mean? Or make sure you report on Trump. I don't know if you guys realize, but all the negative attention that Trump gets has boosted his polls. Every time he does something controversial, his polls go up.
I mean, it's a joke that goes around, but really, Trump is just an excuse for people closeted racists to admit that they're super racist.
When you look at it, especially with TV networks, when it comes to candidates and stuff like that, MSNBC, when Obama got elected, their ratings down because they got what they wanted. Obama's in there. We got it. Fox News straight up, because now they have something to complain about. They got something to talk about. That's why Fox News, I don't get it. Fox, go all in on Hillary. Do it. Because guess what? If she wins, you're going to have something to complain about, and you're going to make a crap ton of money. Right. But they won't, because Fox, especially with Fox News, they like to pretend. They're like, why? I don't get why you don't like us. We're not bigots. Hey, look, there's a black girl on this panel. She definitely agrees with
Sean
us.
Hannity.
Yeah. And then that's the lady that says Star Wars is racist.
It's getting back on track though with the media is that the problem is, at some point, someone and a lot of someones have to go and say, you know what, this is wrong.
Yeah.
If Hillary Clinton wins the presidency, and by the way, I'm not going one way or the other here, but let's say Hillary does win the Democratic nomination, which is what she's competing for right now, in my opinion.
Well, it is what she's competing
for. But people would say to me, whoever. Okay, if you want my honest opinion, and I'm sorry for all of you conservatives out there, whoever wins the Democratic nomination is probably the next president of the United States, because at this point you're looking at Donald Trump, and
he's too polarizing.
Nobody could take him seriously. Well, anybody that isn't voting for him can't.
The GOP's
the GOP can't even take him seriously. Okay, again, going back to what I was saying about Hillary Clinton, when she wins, if she wins, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have a hard time believing it's because people actually wanted her in her politics and president, but because the media sold her as the clear-cut winner, there's no point to vote for Bernie. You know what I mean?
Right.
I love Bernie Sanders, by the way. You want to look at a guy who has followed what he has said forever. Since he's been saying it, great guy. Okay. But apart from that, he did really well at the debates he's been in. And every time he's in it, the online polls, who won the debate? Bernie. And it's like 60 or 70% of the vote on online polls, or unbiased online polls, are saying Bernie Sanders won the debate. You go to CNN, NBC, anybody, Hillary Clinton dominates the debate again. Hillary Clinton clearly won the debate.
And
it's
that's
like,
what's funny is, like, right now, Trump is having, in the next couple of days, a rally in Bernie Sanders' hometown. And you're like, oh, they sold so many tickets. They've sold 8,000 tickets. Bernie Sanders has had, like, all of his rallies have 20,000 plus people at them.
Yeah.
Like, why isn't that reported? Trump sells half as many tickets to his rally.
Yeah.
And that's huge headline news.
It's because the people that support people. In the
Well, I know
GOP
why. It's not a
Yeah.
real question. I understand why.
I don't get why. As a person who lives in this country, why, when you're trying to make someone appeal to other people that you want to lead a country,
right.
why do you appeal to the people that don't know anything? Like, I'm not going to say names. I told you about it yesterday. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Trump supporter. She's like, yeah, I could see that. Didn't even know what a primary is. Didn't know you had to vote who's gonna be the nominee. Like, don't appeal to the lowest common denominator of people.
Okay, do you know what the nuclear triad is?
The what?
The nuclear triad.
Does it have Korea in it?
It's not countries. It's
Oh.
the three methods that we have of delivering nuclear
Oh, okay,
weapons.
yeah, I'm sorry.
So-
I hear nuclear right now, I'm thinking Korea, because that's another
So,
thing.
land-based missiles, submarine-based
Yeah,
missiles,
yeah.
and plane-based bombs.
Yep.
They asked Donald Trump in, I think it was the CNN debate? Or no, it was I don't know. It was one of the Republican debates. They asked him, what do you think is the most important part of the nuclear triad? And he was like, the power. What? And he just kept talking about how, quote, the nuclear, because that's what he just calls it, the nuclear, is devastating. You have to be careful about it, and we need someone we can trust. Like, you don't even know what you don't even know what it is, and you want to bomb countries with it, but you don't even know what it is.
He's the kid in class giving a presentation on a book he didn't read.
Yeah.
Well, that's a whole different. I know what post you're talking about. Where they asked him, "How is the American dream dead?"
Well, let's
And he
not
was like,
let's
"It
not
is."
let's not talk. let's not get too much into the Donald Trump hate train.
Right.
But I mean, at the end of the day, it's more about just the media on both ends selling their candidates, you
Right.
know, and making it a
Oh, yeah.
big thing.
Like, I mean, being a liberal, like every conservative hates CNN. Every liberal hates Fox News. And most conservatives think Fox News is the best thing ever, and most liberals think CNN is the best thing ever. They're both awful.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, honestly, if I were to say, like, honestly, I respect Fox News more than I respect CNN. Because even though they lie and they're stupid and they don't know what they're talking about, at least they use their resources.
Yeah.
On CNN, you have stupid shows like Crossfire. Like, who cares about that? Do the news.
The other thing too is about the media that I really wanted to bring up is who's that NBC guy that just got suspended because Brian
Yeah.
Williams, is that his name? He basically he just made up a bunch of fraudulent stories, put himself in places he wasn't, etc. And he was doing that for a long time. So you're gonna tell me that's a one-time thing? It can't happen in any other news thing like
Right.
Anderson Cooper or.
Hey, watch it. I love Coop.
I'm just saying
He's a spy.
that what I'm saying is you have to open your eyes to that kind of a thing. Like it
Right.
happened, and it happened in a major news network. It's very possible.
Like, honestly, there are very few on-air reporters that I really respect or trust. Like Anderson Cooper's one of them. As much as I disagree with everything that he says, Bill O'Reilly, I respect the guy as an anchor because, well, and not because I think he's right, but just because he really believes in what he.
Yeah,
Like
I
George
get what you're
Stephanopoulos.
saying.
And he takes his job, I think, more seriously than a lot of reporters. Like, if you have someone who, like Sean Hannity, who doesn't really talk about things that are important. He just spends every show talking about how black people are racist against white people. That's every Sean Hannity.
Yeah.
Or how, I literally watched a Sean Hannity clip where him and this other guy were saying that women belong in the kitchen because they're happier there. Like, why are you talking about that? What are you... That's not I mean, okay, well, women's rights are important, but that's not, what I was about to say, yeah. But that's not what the issues are right now women being in the kitchen. It's not 1960. Like, there are very serious things that are going on in the world right now. And that's what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Why?
Why fight battles that
He's not even
aren't
fighting
even
a battle.
battles?
He's not even a battle. He's just like, you're literally trying to devolve.
Why try to make
You're
mountains out
literally
of
trying to get
molehills, is pretty
rid
much.
of progress that we've made. You're saying, oh yeah, you know that women's rights thing? Let's just get rid of it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, let's just bring slavery back, you know.
Right.
I just don't understand it.
Yep.
There are so many more relevant and important things going on today that you can talk about. I don't understand why they waste time on stupid things.
Yeah. The only other topic I think we'd kind of talked about was the price surging with Uber.
Oh my gosh.
Gosh, I mean, like, that is. For those who don't know, Uber is a taxi service app. You can get it. I don't really want to go into the semantics of it, but essentially on New Year's they have this thing. I guess it's called surging, where some events and things like that can cause the prices to escalate. Well, like, it's usually by a couple bucks. Okay, this was ridiculous. Like, apparently, and Uber's response to it was, well, 60% of people didn't experience surging. That's still 40% of your users.
Honestly, though, I don't have a problem with it. Because as soon as when you go to order a taxi during a surge pricing event, it tells you that it's an increased rate, and it tells you how increased it is. So these people agreed to it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, these people agreed to it, and then they get to there, and their taxi bill's their taxi fare is like $200. Well, you knew it.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, it was only an 8-mile taxi ride. It shouldn't be $200, but you knew it was going to be.
Yeah.
So, and the reason they do it is because Uber. If you like, we don't have Uber in this area, so a lot of people probably don't know what it is. But the way Uber works is it's just you can install Uber or download Uber on your phone, register yourself as a driver, and then you'll get calls to go pick someone up and take. I mean, it's a little more complex.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Like, you have to be approved and everything, and you get calls and you go and you become a taxi driver like whenever you want. You can just turn on your phone, say, okay, I'll take jobs right now, and they, as an incentive to make more people do it on high volume times like New Year's Eve, they institute surge pricing, because if you're not making that much money, you're not going to want to waste your New Year's Eve driving drunk people around.
Yeah.
But if you're going to make 3 times as much, well, shoot, yeah.
Yeah, like $83 for a 5-minute ride. I mean,
Right. Maybe the pricing isn't moral, and that's a whole different argument. But the way it worked is you agreed to that price.
I didn't read that you agreed to the
Yeah,
surge.
when you order it, it gives you a notification that surge pricing is taking place right now. Prices are inflated.
Yep.
Yeah, it tells you that it's like that, and people agreed to it and then got mad. Well, don't agree to it. Say no.
I completely agree. Yeah, I completely
Call Lyft.
agree that you do
Lyft
that.
is the same thing as Uber. Call that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said,
Call a real taxi.
the only problem that arises from that is just a completely different argument. Like, I completely agree. You should be able to do that, especially on like New Year's when you're going to be dealing with drunk people all night.
Yeah.
And then the guy, he rides like 20 minutes, or I don't know how long he was. I don't know if it was like 20 minutes or 20 miles, but it wasn't that long of a car ride.
20 miles is a pretty long taxi.
That's why I don't think that's what it was. And his bill was like $1,200. $1,200 to get home safe on New Year's.
I'm sorry, man. At the end of the day, I drank on New Year's. I hung out with people on New Year's. You either crashed the place you were going, or you
planned
had
something.
planned something out.
The
you
reason
are
this happens,
responsible.
exactly, because the people weren't responsible to plan in advance. If you want to go out and get drunk on New Year's, plan a way to get home.
Yeah, that's
have
just for New Year's. Anytime you go to the bar and
Yeah.
decide to get drunk, I'm just saying.
Yeah, have someone else with you that's gonna does DD for you.
Yeah.
Have someone, or some way that you can get home. If you go out and go drinking and you don't have a way home, that's your fault.
Yeah,
Like I said, I've seen multiple friends of mine, like on New Year's, on Twitter and on Facebook, they were like, "Hey, this is my number. If you're out and it's New Year's and you're drunk, I will come get you. I don't care where it is. Don't worry about it. I will come get you."
That's exactly it, though. I mean, at the end of the day, there is no excuse to not be responsible at any point in the time, especially New Year's when.
Unless you have affluenza,
Oh
you know.
my gosh. Was there anything else? So, any other subjects you guys wanted to hit on before we're gonna end this, and then we're probably just going to do a recording, not a stream.
First, have you guys seen the thing going on with people comparing Bill Cosby and Charlie Sheen?
No, I
Not even close to the same thing.
Okay, so Charlie Sheen recently came out that he's HIV positive, right? And he's been sleeping with women for like 2 years while HIV positive, and people are saying that he did the same thing that Bill Cosby did. Okay, Bill Cosby drugged and raped women.
Yeah.
Charlie Sheen.
Allegedly, he hasn't been proven.
Yeah.
Okay, he did it.
I don't know.
Oh, I think he did.
I think he did. But the thing with Charlie Sheen is, I would understand why you would compare them. I still don't think they're the same thing. But why you compare them if he wasn't telling women that he had HIV, but he told them and made them sign a non-disclosure agreement. Charlie Sheen, I don't know if you guys knew about that, but that's
I
like
did not
it,
know
that was a
I
big,
didn't know that he did that.
that was a big news story. Is he made women sign a non-disclosure agreement before they had sex with him, and everyone was like, "Why? Like, what's does he have? Is he like half circumcised? Like it was just everyone was like, "Whoa, why is it? Like, what's going on?" And yeah, I don't know.
Did you see? Do you know who Eddie Griffin is, the comedian? Did you see the interview that they had when they brought up Bill Cosby?
No.
Well, he talked about it, and he said, well, what do you think about the whole Bill Cosby thing? And at first, he was like, well, I don't agree that people can come out of nowhere after 30 years and say, well, this happened to me. And he talks about how, it's a different time, which I don't agree with. It's like, it's a different time, and you would go out to clubs, and if there's Coke on the table, do Coke. Like, that's fine.
We're talking about cocaine and roofies.
Yeah, which that's why I didn't agree, and I was like, maybe he doesn't know everything. But then he went into how there is a systematic plan for any, like, African-American man who becomes powerful, or, we have to tarnish his image. Bill Cosby, Kobe, Michael Jordan gambled, Michael Jackson with all those allegations. It's like, let people be responsible for the things they did.
Yeah, at the end of the day, with the whole argument that people are saying, well, why are they coming out 30 years after? It's like you really
and there's no part of me that sorry to cut you off, but there's no part of me that I'm sure some of those people that came out are fake. I'm sure some of them are faking, but I don't believe that all of them are.
No, but what I'm going to say is, I don't think people realize the effect that, like, sexual assault and things like that, and even the drugs themselves can have on you. And not just that, but then you are one woman trying to take on an icon who's just peaking.
Exactly. And a lot of people never come out with it.
Yeah.
A lot of people that have them, and they never come out.
Yeah.
And when you get... And like you said, I'm sure some of those aren't true.
Yeah.
And when you get people that aren't true, and they make claims like these, you're hurting the people that... You're making them not want to come out and say
they're doing
anything.
that because they don't care. But the point of it is, there's documentation about Bill Cosby getting the alleged drugs.
Yeah.
Okay, acquiring them from prescriptions. And basically all we need is a confession at this point, because you have everything else. You have the people, you have witnesses, you have him getting the drugs. At the end of the day, with the whole Bill Cosby thing, he did it. I'm sorry, he did it.
And I'm sure it's going to come out, and I'm sure will eventually, everything will come to light. I feel like when it comes to sexual assault and stuff like that, it's a very, I don't like, and you can't really help it, that's just the way the world is, it's a very my word against yours kind of thing. Like, I don't know, I told Ryan about
It's
this.
not like there's video cameras.
Well, that's what I mean.
That's the way, rape is a very hard
thing to prosecute.
Because of the way our justice system works,
Exactly.
because of due process, you are innocent until proven guilty. And so if it comes down to just my word against yours, well, you can't charge them.
And to be honest with you, as shitty as it sounds, I actually am okay with. Because I feel like if it came down to my word against your word, there'd be a lot more people wrongfully put in jail for things like rape and like sexual assault. That being said, in my opinion, there's already overwhelming evidence to indict Bill Cosby on these charges.
I know you probably haven't seen the show. I haven't either, really, but Adam Driver's in it, so I watched a few episodes. Have you seen the show Girls on HBO?
No.
Okay, well, the main star of that, I've talked to Ryan about this. Her name's Lena Dunham.
They canceled it, by the way.
Did they?
I heard that on the radio.
Good.
I don't know the
I
show.
can't stand
heard of it.
But she's this huge... It was an alright show. I liked it. She's this huge, like, feminist, and that's fine. Have your views. I don't care. I don't necessarily agree, but, like, go ahead. And she... Egalitarian. So pretty much, but you know.
We won't get into it, but okay.
She spoke out against Bill Cosby, and she was like, "I'm glad that the victims are being heard and there's justice." And she's talking about how he's the scum of the earth, and I'm just like, Lena, First of all, you got a man kicked out of his university because you just said, I was sexually assaulted by a man. This was his name. I don't know his last name. This is what he looks like. And this was his major. I don't know anything else. They found a guy that fit all that, and they were like, well, it's got to be him.
Well, and this, something really similar to that happened. I don't remember what university it is, and I don't really know all the details in the story
Duke?
anymore. Is it, maybe,
It's
I don't know. Like, she sexually assaulted him.
Yep.
And then he was really drunk, and so she took him back to her dorm, or his dorm, I think, and slept with him, but he was drunk, so he couldn't consent. And then after that, went home, called another guy, had him come over and slept with him, and then accused the first guy of rape. He got expelled, and it was Duke.
No, Duke. I thought of something else.
Whatever university it is, expelled him, and then all the evidence came out that he didn't actually do anything wrong. He was the one who was sexually assaulted, and they are upholding his expulsion. They won't let him back.
No, let's see. That's
Yeah, they did that with a Duke lacrosse team. A girl said the Duke lacrosse teams, they all sexually assaulted her, and they lose scholarships.
Yeah.
Their lives are, like, when you are accused of something like that, your life
there
is
needs
ruined.
there needs to be proof. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I think we're walking a line here where there still needs to be proof.
We need to have a society where if you do make an accusation like that proves to be false, there's consequences.
Yeah.
Because there aren't.
Yeah.
And you ruin someone's lives, and nothing happens.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
Is there anything else, or?
No?
No, I think
Okay.
we kind of covered it.
I mean, as far as I think we covered a lot of different topics this time.
Not
I'm
all
sorry.
sports this time.
We're gonna do something about the mic next time, it not being on the table or something. We really didn't realize that. I also got a text about the audio maybe being off of our lips when we're talking, but it's hard because it's
That's
a live
the
stream.
worst.
Yeah, but like I can't do anything about it.
Right,
Like there's not. Other than that, though, did you want to close with your little fun fact before I
Okay.
say my thing?
So, I might have to explain this because he wasn't aware what a manhole is. But a manhole, if you don't know what that is,
I've just never heard it referred to as that. But
what do you call them?
I don't know. I
Okay,
don't know what I
so
call
the
them.
holes-
Sewer cover.
Yeah.
The holes in the road that lead to the sewer. The reason they're round is because if they were square, you could turn it up on its side and it would fall in.
Yeah.
That's very useful information.
You should now feel like a more intelligent human being. I'm gonna start doing something where I end the podcast with like a quote. It could be an inspirational quote. It could be a stupid quote. This one just happens to be a little bit more inspirational given the New Year's resolution theme that's going on. And this quote is from H. Jackson Brown. He's an author, and he says, "The best preparation for tomorrow is doing your best today." And I think that's a pretty good quote. I like it a lot. Other than that, though, I think we're pretty much set. Thank you guys for watching again and dealing with the madness. And until next time, which we don't know what next time will be yet, but Oh, I guess I should do all my little things first. Follow us on Twitter. It'll be in the description. And we'll have updates on there about like the stream,
We're
about
still
the
an egg,
podcast.
apparently. We don't have a logo.
Yeah, we're trying to get the logo thing going. I'm sorry. Sorry, I just kind of jumped back because I almost forgot. We're also going to look into an idea, which we're going to talk about more of potentially in the near future having guests on the show, which I think we talked about before, but really making that something we can do. So, and if you have any topic suggestions, please leave them in the comments, tweet them at us. Any other way you think that you can get them to us, I don't know, make a video. That'd be fun. We would love to, as long as we walk a line that's, and we really kind of cross it with the politics thing, but it's hard not to sometimes.
Yeah.
But just make sure they're in line with everything, and we might be able to talk about it. But until next time, guys, have a good day, a night, whatever time it is there, and thanks again for watching.